I came across this interesting. You may have seen this before, but this interesting this TikTok that kind of went viral. There is a recent college grad who started in a job, and she went on to TikTok and made a post about how upsetting it was to work a 9 to 5 job. It's like this cultural, this shit. In college, you don't have a lot of responsibility, and maybe you work a part-time job while you go to school, and whatever. But you don't have a ton of true responsibility, and other than making sure that you get good grades, etc. But when you come into the workplace, you kind of realize that this is like the rest of your life. The rest of your adult life is 9 to 5 grind. And, there's a question of like, is this really what life is about? And I have my own opinion on that, and probably will do a video on that at some point in time in the not too distant future about like, what's the true meaning of life? Like, why are we here? I don't believe that we're here to work. And how we got to this point. It's such an unhealthy balance. But nonetheless, that's how it is. And I think that there's a big disconnect between people coming out of college and suddenly kind of being faced with a reality of, this is not just you do this for a few years and then you move on to the next thing. This is kind of the rest of your life. And that can be, the younger generations are finding out kind of more the hard way, maybe are less prepared than previous generations who maybe had a different, kind of an expectation coming into the workplace. So I can play this really quickly. It's kind of, it's not too long. I might have to bleep out some of the language, but
I know I'm probably just being so dramatic and annoying, but this is my first job, like my first 9 to 5 job after college, and I'm in person, and I'm commuting in the city, and it takes me f***ing forever to get there. There's no way I'm going to be able to afford living in the city right now, so that's off the table. Like, if I was able to walk to work, and it'd be fine, but I'm not. So it literally takes me, like, I leave here, like, I get on the train at 7:30, and I don't get home till, like, 6:15 earliest, and then, like, I don't have time to do anything. I want to shower, eat my dinner, and go to sleep. I don't have time or energy to cook my dinner either. Like, I don't have energy to work out. Like, that's out the window. Like, I'm so upset. Oh my God. Nothing to do with my job at all, but just like the 9 to 5 schedule in general is crazy. Being in the office 9 to 5, like if it was remote, you get off at 5 and you're home and everything's fine. But like, I'm not home. It takes me long to get home, and like people that drive to the office, like you don't get off at 5. And I know it could be worse. I know I could be working longer, but like, I literally get off, it's pitch black, like I don't have energy. How do you have friends? Like, how do you have time to like meet like a guy? I don't know. Like, how do you have time for like dating? Like, I don't have time for anything, and I'm like so stressed out, and I'm also getting my period, so that's why I'm all emotional. But like, am I so dramatic? It's fine.
So obviously she's having a strong disconnect between the reality of the modern workplace and kind of the reality hitting her. And, I'm listening to her talking about starting work at 7:15 or leaving for the office at 7:15 and getting home at 6:15. I'm like, I mean, that's about right. If this is something that's not going to work for her, then she's probably going to have a long, hard career, because this is the reality of life, especially when you're in a big city. You have a long commute. I mean, that's one of the reasons why remote work is so attractive, is that you can start at 8 and end, in theory, end at 5 and not have this long commute. And I think a lot of folks who have worked remote find that they probably work longer hours than anything. However, the ability to do that remotely does cut down on that commute. But the reality is that's what life is. And is there a better way? I hope that we get to a balance where that our lives are not so tied around this. But the fact of the matter is that we all have to do it, and that's just it. So, not to take this a step further, she goes on to TikTok and talks about how this disconnect. And I'm sitting here, when I first saw this, I saw this actually back last year when she made this, and I'm just thinking to myself, like, yeah, I don't know if I would go on to TikTok and talk about how I can't handle the commute and the long work day, and I don't have time for anything. And sure enough, I hate to see it, but sure enough, she ends up getting laid off. So she made this reaction. She got laid off, and she's kind of dealing with the reality of being fairly early in her career with not a ton of experience, and now having to deal with a layoff. So it's like all the realities are kind of setting in fairly early. This is not an easy time to be a Generation Z coming into the workplace, where it's just such a crazy market up and down. We've had buyer's market, we've had the pandemic, we've had kind of the whiplash, the pendulum swinging back and forth. Don't envy them coming into the workplace, but also trying to kind of adapt to how the workplace truly is, and kind of finding out the hard way, like a hard lesson early in your life. This is why it's so important to be in control of your career, because there are other ways out of the 9-to-5 grind. You don't have to work the 9-to-5 if you don't want to. You have choices, but they all require hard work. Like, I don't work a 9-to-5 anymore. I mean, I kind of do, because it's my business is 9-to-5, but I work a lot of hours. But I'm my own boss, but I still work a ton of hours. I work harder in this job than I did any corporate job I ever worked, because it's a labor of love. I love doing what I do, but it's not easy. But there is a way out of the 9-to-5, but you have to be motivated. It's like you just can't sit there and expect things to just fall in your lap and kind of have that all happen for you. And I hate to see somebody getting laid off, obviously, but it's a good lesson to learn maybe early in your career, so that if you take the learning opportunity and move forward and kind of change your approach, it could end up working for you. So let's just take a quick look at her video, her reaction. I probably won't play the whole thing, but
I'm not gonna sit here and cry, but I got laid off of my first post-grad job, and the one that took me 5 months to find, that I moved to New York City for. Basically, it's not my fault. Before we start, I worked for a startup, and they didn't have the workload or the bandwidth that they needed to train me and to give me work to do. Like, I wasn't doing anything that I was hired to do, and I was really wanting to learn. So I was thinking in my head that I wanted a job with more responsibilities anyways, but come January 2nd, I need a new job, and I don't have one. I even told most of my friends, if I post this, it's because I actually thought it through. Getting laid off before the holidays, that means the hiring processes stop right before Christmas, and then they go all the way till January 2nd, and then they pick back up. And it's still gonna probably be 2-3 week process to hire and onboard for a new job. So
obviously, hiring does stop near probably the second or third week of December, but I would say it doesn't really pick up in force until probably mid to late January as headcount comes out. So she's right in that there's a hiring buffer, the kind of things slow down, but I'm not expecting to see a hiring uptick at least for another week or two as I record this video. But she's to her point, yeah. But it also kind of it's crappy to get laid off right before the holiday. I don't know why they couldn't just wait until after the first of the year and then give her notice. But that's just it. That's my own issue with that.
So that's the time frame I'm looking at, and I can't wait that long. I need a job immediately. The job that I was working 9-to-5 from, I wasn't making enough to live. I don't have a savings because of that job. Like, the salaries that people are making with a degree right now after college is just not okay. We're working so much, and I still don't have an emergency fund. I don't, because I wasn't making enough to save any of it. Everything was going towards living and expenses and commuting and everything else.
I would maybe suggest too, if you're in a situation where you're in New York City, that's a really, really hard place to get a career started, because you've got such extraordinary expenses. You may want to move to a cheaper place to live. But yeah, I mean, it'd be side hustles. I know some people feel like that's a dirty word, but side hustles are a thing. You might want to consider picking up a side gig or two, or creating a little side income stream because of this exact reason. Especially if you're early in your career, get something that you can get it passively going, and you could really help yourself out a lot. This is one of the ways that you can reclaim your control, is when you don't have to react in the job market. If you get laid off, you're going to be reactive because you're taking the first job that comes your way. Chances are it's going to be a crappy job because you just need an income. You need to solve for that problem. And then you end up getting one bad job after another, and it kind of snowballs on you. So, side income streams, guys.
And to go through the whole entire hiring process again is going to actually kill me. It's so defeating. It's so disappointing. And it makes you feel like you're not good enough. And I know that I am. I know that I'm a hard worker. And my boss literally said that I'm one of the smartest people he's ever had work under him. And he knows that I'm going to land on my feet, and he'll give me a great referral to anybody. So don't start. I have a degree. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I had 2 internships. I built a portfolio. I worked freelance out of school because I was building my portfolio, taking the time. did things for free. I have done everything I possibly could have, and it's still not enough. Putting yourself in debt to go to college, and you still can't find a job that pays enough for you to live.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Whether or not college is a viable option going forward. I've got young kids myself, and we're starting to think, like, is college really realistic? The amount of money that you do, she makes a very valid point. The amount of money that you make coming out of college versus the amount of debt, like the extraordinary amount of debt, especially with interest rates and that sort of thing. I mean, you'll never get ahead unless you do something different. Again, the side hustles and that sort of thing. It's kind of sucks to have to even say that. That's just the reality of the world that we live in today and going forward. So I think as far as where things are heading in the future, we have this new generation that's coming in, and they're going to bring some very interesting changes. I don't know what the workplace will look like in 10 or 15 or 20 years when even the newer generation behind Generation Z comes in, but it'll be really interesting to see how things kind of pan out and shape up. But really interesting data. I just felt like I wanted to share it, kind of give a little bit of commentary on it. This is certainly not meant to pile on to Generation Z. I think they've got a lot of great ideas and a lot of interesting things that they're going to bring and kind of revolutionize how we approach the workplace. And I think it's needed. But it does sound to me like there is a disconnect, and it's kind of like, how do you find that happy balance between finding the right amount of work, still contributing in the right kind of ways, and kind of being more independent and putting your, kind of like putting your responsibility, your big girl pants or big boy pants on, and really kind of approaching things with strategy. If you're early in your career, this is the time to start planning out with strategy how you're going to move through your career. You don't want to just wing it and hope for the best. Now is when you want the strategy, because it will save you tremendously when you get deeper into your career. And as many people who are deep in their career have kind of found out, and I made a recent video about some career epiphanies that you might have when it's too late. You'll find that, man, if you could go back to the early version of yourself, the first entry-level job, tap yourself on the shoulder, just think of the great advice you would give yourself. There's an opportunity right now for you to really approach things with a lot of authority and conviction so that you can avoid some of the stuff. And who knows, maybe you can get out of the workplace, before you hit the traditional 65. Maybe you can make the right decisions and right moves. So anyway, I thought this was just a kind of a lighthearted video. I just wanted to kind of walk through these articles that I found. So hopefully found some value in my rambling on it. But what's your thoughts? How do you view the incoming generations and the kind of how that'll shake up the market? What are your predictions? Anyway, appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next one.